Welcome to instructional tips on being able to look at properties in memory and how that's structured. This is one of the shorter sections for data model, though it's a 24 slide, so it's still fairly long, but it's more about using the clipboard tool. So you want to make sure that you spend time with your students explaining to them about the clipboard tool that's located at the bottom of the Dev Studio environment. Gives you an opportunity, like many debuggers that you use for OO languages, NetBeans, some other um, Microsoft Studio, Eclipse. They give you debuggers to look in the memory to see the objects and how they are persisted or laid out in memory. So that's what we give you. We give you the clipboard. So it's our first tool that we utilize that will help you understand your information. So let's take a look at it. No new concepts, just a matter of how to get access to the tool. Remember, we use this whole concept of a page of information. So think of a page of paper or think of an addressable memory location, and that's what a page is. Some of the pages are created by the system. Keep up with all of the information when you log in. We, we do a get main, got a user section. We manage that for you in Pega. Some pages are created by the system architect, such as your data objects, your data types that you end up creating. So the clipboard is where for a user session, I can see you're executing case type, which is a case instance, which is really a class, which gets instantiated as an object. That object is stored on at an addressable location that we call by its property name py work page. And from there, I can use the tool, clipboard tool. I see the name of the property, value pair, I can see the value. If I have data types, complex data types, page, page list, page group, value list, value group, then they will be considered embedded pages. And I can see all that in the clipboard. Only single values are directly viewed on PY work page. If it's not a single value, everything else is an embedded property. And you only see the values after you've entered the information, hit submit. Remember, this is thin client, client server. So you have to hit submit. It has to post to the server for you to be able to see that information. Spend some time on this screen. Make sure the students understand that in Pega, it doesn't matter the device. We'll talk about in UI the concept of responsiveness, which indicates I can have one code base in Pega, but based upon the device physical size, the code that Pega generates is device aware. So through its responsive behavior, it sets what's called breakpoints, can determine when to reorient the fields and the components on the UI to fit the size of the physical device. But that's a different topic. This is related to, I have a UI with data. That flow action is responsible for displaying the section that eventually has the layouts, which has a cell. The cells have controls, and the controls have properties where we store the values. That information is stored on the clipboard on PY work page. Now, if I have a relationship to where I have a object and then I create a parent and that object becomes a child, then the child gets moved to, no, then the parent gets moved to PY work cover, and the child, the executing child, is PY work page. So PY work cover is for the parent case of a given child. In case you need to look at properties at the parent. PY work page, if I have embedded properties, I also have system data pages that I can see. And those system data pages are my data sources. That could be a report definition, which is a query, SQL query, or I could implement it as a connector, web services, something like a REST API, SOAP, MQ, to go and get some information externally. Now, also, when all of that's going on, Pega itself will be keeping up with any data that's on your browser UI that's stored on the clipboard, and Pega itself will automatically store it in PZPV Stream, which is the blob. And if you as a developer or architect would like to write to an external data source or table, then you can do that also to your own definition. And all of that happens and can be viewed through the clipboard, looking at the properties, at the case type on PY work page, its parent, PY work cover, and its data pages. If you are using data pages to source information, all of that can be found and seen. So in the PY work page is where the executing case is. Embedded properties, you have to click on it. Make sure you understand what I mean when I say you have to click on it. So if I go back and remember I ran this instance, so this instance is still in memory. Scroll down, PY work page. Here, certain properties, single values are located here. Here's my service total. It's a single value property. But if I wanted to see the service data type, I have to come here and I can see that it is a page list. I have an array of information. Here's my data page. If I had used the data page to source something, and we'll talk about thread request to node when we get into information exchange. But it's a way to retain your data in memory and make it accessible to certain groups of users. Here's an example of my navigation. If I want to look at clipboard when I'm executing a case type, creates an instance for me, then my clipboard can be utilized to see my information. So on my clipboard, up at the top, you'll see I have a variety of threads. Pega is a multi-threaded application. So there's a lot going on. Normally when you run your application, you'll always see your thread. Here's the S4001. I go to the clipboard, it will default to S4001. So I see that immediately. But that's a sub-thread. The major thread, well, here's a portal thread that gives me different information. And I have this new property thread that I created earlier. But if you want to see your information, you can go to this S4001 thread. Sometimes you'll see a standard thread that shows you all of the threading that happens. So yes, Pega is multi-threaded as an application. So let's see if there's anything I need to show you here. We have 4 categories of clipboard pages. User pages is where you'll see your PY work page. Any data pages you create with the data page that you'll learn about later on in information exchange, you will see that here in this category. We have others like link property pages and system pages that you normally don't have to reference unless you are an administrator. Implementation, here's the clipboard. You use it when you're wanting to do some level of debugging. See what information has been updated as you progress through your case. Now, you may have an occasion that you need to reference data types that are outside of your context. Well, how do you do that in Pega? You do that by going to the rules form of any rule in Pega. This is on every rule type, and there is a pages and classes tab. On the pages and classes tab, you simply specify the class you want to make reference to, and you get access to it. In this case, I'm simply saying on PY work page, there's another location in memory that I need to get access to. It's similar to in Java and C Sharp or even in C++. It's by reference. It's by reference. You have a reference that points to an object. So this is the reference name that points to an object. Or in C++, you're familiar with a pointer. Pointer that points to an object. You just don't have to worry about the pointer notation. This is just equal. This is creating a query to go and pull back some data. So at the end of this chapter, students should understand how data is presented in memory, how to look at it on the clipboard, why PY work page is important, holds the current executing case, how that data is processed, and understand how to review data and set values. So that concludes this section of data in memory.